Writing answers for law firm applications can feel overwhelming. You sit down staring at a blank screen trying to find the perfect response to impress the firm's recruiters. And because you know the more applications you make, the better chance you have of succeeding in the application process, there's this huge pressure to get more applications done faster. So in this video, I'm going to share with you a technique called the pixel method. It helped me write better applications faster. And also I'm going to share what I think is the best online tool which you can use completely free to help you with this. If you're new here, my name's Idin. I'm a corporate lawyer in London and a New York qualified attorney. I make videos about the law application process, my experiences as a lawyer and that sort of stuff. So if you're interested in that, consider subscribing to my channel. I also run a newsletter called LITTLELAW which helps aspiring lawyers break into legal careers. You can check out if you want, it's linked in the description below. Anyway, let's get to it. There are basically two ways you can approach writing, the printer method and the pixel method. It was the writer David Perell who actually came up with these ideas. I used to write using the printer method. This is when you start writing your response sentence by sentence, one at a time until it's perfect. You focus on nailing the first sentence to your answer, then the second, then the third, and so on. Basically, it's how a printer would go about printing a piece of paper. It might actually sound fine, but it slows you down loads because you're aiming for perfection way too early in the writing process. It's also why you might get writer's block or that feeling where you just can't think of the right answer to a question. The other approach to writing is called the pixel method. Instead of writing a perfect sentence, you just get all your ideas down on the piece of paper like it's a rough sketch. Then once your ideas are actually on paper, you go over them to make them better. With this method, you forget about perfection. You just write something, even if it's bad, and then you build momentum. It's like how pixels would load on an image over a slow internet connection. First you'll see something blurry, but then over time it gets clearer and clearer. And here's why the pixel method works. When you've got a long form application answer to write, I've spent so much time, really wasted loads of time, trying to think of the perfect way to write the answer in that little application box portal. But that's the wrong approach because writing your answer and editing your answer require completely different frames of mind. Writing is creative. You need to be thinking up new ideas. And editing is critical. You need to be putting yourselves in the shoes of someone else and seeing how they would see it. In this case, the shoes of the law firm's recruitment team. With the printer method, when you're doing one sentence, then the next, you're trying to do both of these things at the same time, which is really hard. So instead, when you're writing your application answers for law firms, don't try to write anything perfect. In fact, don't even do anything that you think is good. Just get all your ideas down, good or bad, at the start. This way you take away that fear of thinking whether an idea is good enough to include. Once you've got all your ideas down, even if they're rubbish or messy or unclear, then you can take your writing hat off, put your editing hat on, and start tidying up those ideas. So let's go over an example to see how this would actually look. Imagine you're answering a question like, why are you interested in a career at our firm? That's a pretty standard law firm question. With the printer method, you just start writing your answer and try to nail it first time, which is really slow and pretty much impossible to do well. But with the pixel method, first you do a brain dump. Write down everything you know about the firm. Don't worry about structure, grammar, whether an idea is good enough or not. Just get it down on paper. And you should have a bunch of stuff you can use from your research and having spoken to people at the firm. Next, organize your ideas into themes that fit the question that you've been asked. So for example, in this question, your themes could be things like the firm's reputation, deals they've worked on that's interested you, or specific practice areas. Then once you've grouped all your ideas into themes, you can start finally refining your writing. That's when the editing starts, which I think is the fun part. You can rewrite your ideas to be clearer. You can pick apart sentences or language you've used to be sharper and more succinct. You can make changes to make the whole thing easier to read. I've got a whole video on how you can write a good application. You can watch it while you're doing this part and I'll link that in the description below. Now you've seen how the pixel method helps you get out of writer's block and get ideas down and ultimately answers down quicker onto paper. I want to share a bonus tip with you, which is actually something I use to help me write even to this day. And that tip is this. Don't use Google Docs to write your law firm applications. Instead, use a note-taking software, Notion. If you haven't heard of it, Notion's a free online productivity kind of note-taking tool. And the reason I think it's so good for writing law firm applications is that it makes it so easy to put the pixel method into practice. This video isn't sponsored or anything, I actually just think it's an awesome software to use. First, when you're writing an answer to something, you can just quickly dump your ideas on the page. I like to use checkboxes for this, which you'll see why in a second. Then once you've done your brain dump, you can do headings to match up to the themes that you were using to answer the main question. and then really easily you can drag all your ideas to fit into the different headings. Once you've got all your ideas kind of put into the different categories, you can quickly check off the ones that you think aren't really good enough to make it into your final answer, and that leaves you with your themes and your ideas that are good enough to feed each one of those themes in a really nice structure. Then you can just start writing and tick off those remaining checkboxes once you're done with that. Now you've got something written that's been pretty quick for you to write, and you can start the editing process. Writing law firm applications doesn't have to be a slow and stressful process. By using the pixel method, it means you'll work faster, and that means you'll get more applications submitted, which ultimately means you'll have a higher chance of getting a training contract or a vacation scheme. So next time you start writing, think about the approach you're taking. First, start with a brain dump. Then organize the ideas into themes that match the question you're answering, and then finally put on your editing hat and start sculpting those written text into something that's really easy to read. You'll see you can get through the process much faster, and the final product will be better too. As always, let me know your thoughts on this video by leaving a thumbs up, a thumbs down, or a comment down below. And if you're doing applications right now, consider subscribing to this channel because I'll be putting out more application related content too. For all you aspiring lawyers, I run a commercial awareness newsletter called Little Law. You can sign up if you want. The link is in the description below. Anyway, I hope you found this helpful, and I'll catch you next time.